Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are diving into a listener stack that, well, it feels like the ultimate cheat sheet.
Yeah, it really does.
A comprehensive guide connecting pretty abstract economic theory directly to the practical, high-stakes decisions political leaders have to make every single day.
Right. It's not just an Economics 101 course.
No, it's more like the instruction manual for the person right at the top. It shows the knowledge needed not just to understand the world, but, to strategically govern it.
And that's really our mission here, to synthesize these core concepts, how economic systems actually operate with this really rigorous 3-year intellectual roadmap. It's specifically designed for political mastery.
Clerical mastery, yeah.
We're kind of pulling back the curtain on how future leaders are trained to intervene in markets, manage potentially catastrophic crises, and crucially, how they communicate really complex policy decisions to, let's face it, often a nervous public.
And the sources we have are quite remarkable. We've got foundational texts on economic mechanics, the basics like opportunity costs, all the way up to the global balance of payments.
Standard stuff, but essential.
But then there's this detailed curriculum. It's apparently used to train future leaders, future statesmen. And it reveals not just what they need to know, but the method, this really active, almost ruthless method they use to internalize it and deploy that knowledge under, intense pressure.
Exactly. It's about making it second nature.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Where does this concept of economics even start for a leader? It's not just academic for them, right?
Yeah.
It probably starts with scarcity.
It absolutely does. I mean, for a leader, economics is basically the study of political constraint. You just can't talk about allocating resources, production, distribution, consumption without immediately hitting the political fight over limits.
Limits on everything.
Limited budgets, limited healthcare, limited energy, even limited public patience. It's the fundamental constraint that dictates every single policy choice. What are we going to produce? How? And who benefits?
And those choices, they define the entire national system, don't they? We see that contrast laid out. You've got market economies on one side.
Right, where supply and demand, voluntary exchange kind of set the prices.
Versus command economies, where the government is much more hands-on, directing resources, setting prices.
But the reality, the politically relevant point, is that almost every successful state today operates some kind of mixed system.
Sure, it's always a mix.
The real debate isn't market or command, it's where on that spectrum should the government step in. To encourage growth, maybe manage inequality, or try to stabilize prices. That's the day-to-day policy battle.
Which takes us neatly into micro versus macroeconomics, often framed as just an academic split. But for a leader, it sounds like it's about connecting the local pressure point to the national lever.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. Micro focuses on the individual agents, the consumer, the small business, the local shop owner.
The ground level.
Yeah. When leaders are trained, they study these basic concepts like the circular flow model. Households supply labor, get income, spend it on goods from firms. Simple, right?
Sounds simple.
But why is that basic flow so critical? Because if consumption stalls at that micro level, maybe people lose confidence or lose their jobs. The whole national system, the macro side, it can just freeze up.
Okay, so that's why macroeconomics is like the study of the national dashboard, looking at the big metrics, GDP, gross domestic product.
Right. Inflation, unemployment, the business cycle, those big trends.
And this is where a leader stops just observing and starts actively, intervening.
And their main tools are policy. We're talking fiscal policy, that's taxes, government spending, subsidies, and monetary policy, usually handled by the central bank, managing interest rates.
Those are the big levers.
Those are the tools they use to try and nudge growth, stabilize prices across the whole nation.
The source material also makes a really good point about scale, tying the local back to the global picture, the small local economy.
Yeah.
That's the backbone.
Absolutely essential. Local selling, it fosters community wealth, keeps money circulating locally. You need that for stability.
If you want national resilience, if you want to compete globally, you have to understand economies of scale.
Yes, that's crucial. When a firm gets bigger, its cost per unit tends to drop. Mass production, investment in better technology.
Right.
This is the mechanism that lets your national champion companies dominate on the world stage and really drive major economic growth.
And that flows directly into international economics, global trade. The theory there is comparative advantage, isn't it?
That's the textbook idea. Nations specialize in what they produce relatively best and then trade for everything else.
And the idea is this lowers prices globally, boosts growth for everyone involved.
Theoretically, yes. But the practical consequence of all this global trade is the critical need to manage the balance of payments, the BOP.
Ah, the BOP. I've heard that term trigger warnings.
It can be a tripwire. The BOP, basically, the difference between what your nation exports and what it imports isn't just some accounting exercise, no. No, if you consistently run big deficits, importing way more than you export, you start burning through your foreign currency reserves. And that's when foreign debt suddenly becomes a major national security issue. It can lead to currency crises.
Okay, so that's the theory. Micro-macro trade, BOP. Now we get to the really fascinating part, I think. Application under pressure.
Right.
Because knowing the definition of the BOP doesn't help much when there's a riot because the currency just collapsed.
Yeah.
How does this curriculum actually force a leader to use that knowledge effectively?
That's the absolute key. The source outlines this pretty brutal, rigorous 3-year roadmap. It hammers active learning. Read it, summarize it, apply it, simulate it, and then write about it.
Wow.
It's all about building intellectual and, importantly, procedural muscle memory that actually functions under extreme stress.
And the structure sounds demanding. Discipline is key. Every trainee apparently has to keep this PM notebook.
Yes, the Prime Minister's notebook. Documenting strategy, reflections, mistakes, lessons learned. It's a continuous feedback loop.
But I found the mentor requirement really insightful. You need 2 mentors.
That's right, 2. One policy or academic expert, someone deep in theory, and one retired senior civil servant or military officer.
Why that specific pairing?
It's critical. It forces the trainee immediately to balance pure theory with, let's call it bureaucratic realism, the practical complexities of actually getting things done within the state apparatus.
Got it. Theory meets reality check.
Exactly. Pure theory has to be tempered by the nitty-gritty of implementation.
So year 1 is called Foundations, and the mix seems intentionally maybe jarring. Month 1 is Pure Power and Leadership Theory, Machiavelli, Sun Tzu.
The classics of power.
And a few months later, they're deep into constitutional law and the basics of policing. Seems like a big jump.
It's deliberate. You have to master both the raw exercise of power and the legal and ethical constraints that define a constitutional democracy. You need both sides.
Okay, makes sense.
And then, smack in the middle of that first year, comes the economic trio. Microeconomics, macroeconomics, and the practical mechanics of banking and financial flows, how money actually moves.
Right. Then moving into years 2 and 3, the focus sharpens. It becomes hyper-focused on national strategic decision-making. High-level stuff.
Very high level. These are the advanced topics that can dictate national survival. They go deep into international relations theory.
Like realism versus liberalism.
Exactly. Understanding that core tension, national self-interest versus international cooperation in institutions. Then they master advanced modeling trade flows, foreign exchange movements, and that critical balance of payments again.
So getting predictive with it.
Trying to, yes. And they follow that with intense study of public finance taxation, managing national debt, the political powder keg of deficits.
And this is where the curriculum uses reality as the teacher, right? Significant time on detailed crisis case studies.
Oh, yes. That's huge. They dissect exactly how things went wrong in past crises.
Like which ones?
The 1997 Asian financial crisis that was largely a failure of managing foreign exchange and capital flows. The 2008 global collapse exposed deep fragility in the banking system. And more recently, the 2022 Sri Lankan economic meltdown. A textbook case, really, of twin deficits, budget, and current account plus BOP failure, leading directly to political collapse.
Wow.
The lesson is crystal clear. If you fail the fundamental economic tests, you risk state failure, full stop.
And often that failure can be seen coming, which is why the training emphasizes specific early warning indicators. Leaders have to watch a specific dashboard for survival, as the source calls it.
Absolutely. You need to know what dials to watch. The source highlights practical metrics that basically scream impending crisis.
Like what? Give us an example.
Okay, tracking your foreign exchange reserves is paramount. If they drop below, say, 3 months' worth of your typical imports, that's a flashing red light for national liquidity. You might not be able to pay for essential imports.
Okay, that's concrete. What else?
Bank non-performing loans, NPLs. Bad debts. If those start rising above maybe 5 to 7% of total loans, that signals systemic weakness in your banking sector.
Right. And politically sensitive ones.
Perhaps the most volatile politically. A rapid spike in youth unemployment. That's often the immediate precursor to social unrest, to protests in the streets.
So it's one thing to know these metrics exist. It's another entirely to act on them instantly under pressure. That technical knowledge has to be translated into usable formats, right? Which is why the curriculum insists on these decision templates.
Precisely. Structures like the Prime Minister's brief template. This isn't just a memo. It's designed as a tool for instant clarity when everything's hitting the fan.
How does it work?
It forces the leaders' team to boil everything down. Top 3 immediate national priorities, what must be done now. List the current critical economic indicators, the dashboard snapshot, and most importantly, clearly identify the specific decisions requiring PM input.
So no waffle, just data, constraints, action points.
Exactly. No narrative, just the core information needed to make a call.
And when a full-blown crisis hits, civil unrest, natural disaster, whatever, they rely on something called the crisis playbook skeleton.
Yes, it provides a pre-agreed structure. The objectives have to be rigidly defined. Immediate goal: contain the situation, stabilize it. Short term: investigate what happened, provide relief. And the crucial long-term goal: rebuild public trust.
Trust seems key.
Always. And the action framework within that playbook always includes a pre-approved rapid communication plan and very clear rules for deploying security forces. But the communication itself, that's a high art skill that needs to be mastered like breathing.
And the timing is critical, you mentioned.
Non-negotiable. The source is explicit, the leader must speak immediately. We're talking within the first hour of a major event unfolding.
The first hour, wow.
You cannot afford an information vacuum. Someone needs to take charge of the narrative, provide reassurance.
And that first speech, that rapid response speech, it has a specific structure.
3 key moves in quick succession. First, empathy. Acknowledge the suffering, the fear. Second, immediate government action. What are we doing right now? Reassurance that things are being handled. And third, a call for calm and unity.
So the leader needs to be that steady, calm anchor in the middle of the storm.
Exactly that. Project Calm, Project Control, even if internally things are chaotic.
But leadership isn't just about what you say, is it? The curriculum emphasizes physical presence.
Hugely important. Action speaks louder than words. The leader must be seen to walk among the people, especially at a crisis site. The source literally says, 1 real gesture equals 10 speeches.
Powerful.
It's about being present, showing authentic concern, connecting directly with the people affected.
And the way you deliver that message, the tone, it has to shift depending on who you're talking to.
Oh, dramatically.
Yeah.
You can't use the same style everywhere.
So what does that mean for delivery? How do you tailor it?
Well, think about Parliament or a formal legislative body. The style needs to leverage pure logos reason, logic. It should be measured, precise, data-driven.
Makes sense. Respecting the institution.
But then picture a large crowd rally. You need to tap into pathos emotion. The delivery needs to be passionate, maybe rhythmic, relying on emotionally resonant slogans, stories that connect.
Okay. And a military briefing.
That requires pure ethos authority, credibility, commanding presence, firm tone, short declarative sentences, establishing unequivocal authority and clarity.
So different tools for different jobs.
Yeah.
But there's a core principle binding them.
Yes. The golden rule of leadership communication, as the source frames it, you have to master all 3. Ethos, your credibility, the trust people have in you. Pathos, connecting emotionally through stories, empathy. And elos, the logical arguments, the data, the facts.
Ethos, pathos, logos.
Yeah.
The classic trio.
It's the only way to really convince minds and move hearts at the same time, which is what leadership ultimately requires.
So summing this up, we started with the almost dry academic definition of economics, allocating scarce resources.
Right, the basics.
And we've ended up deep in the practical application. Governance, strategy, crisis communication, even the psychology of leadership.
And that's really the ultimate lesson embedded in this curriculum. Technical expertise, knowing your micro, your macro, your BOP figures, it's almost useless on its own.
Useless without.
Without mastery of law, security procedures, organizational structures, and especially communication that builds and maintains public trust, you need the whole package.
And the sources really hammer home that continuous learning adaptation.
Yeah.
They're just non-negotiable for anyone in that kind of role. You can't stand still.
Absolutely not. The world changes too fast.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final thought. Something provocative, perhaps.
Okay. Well, the training materials, interestingly, list one key piece of advice for leaders who are facing intense international scrutiny or pressure.
What's the advice?
It says transparency. make processes visible. This undercuts foreign puppet claims.
Ah, interesting. Transparency as a shield.
Exactly. Now, given that this curriculum heavily focuses on high-stakes geopolitics, managing relations with major powers like India, China, the U.S., think about this.
Okay.
How might making a detailed national roadmap, like this very training curriculum we've been discussing, how might making that transparent act as both a huge strategic liability, potentially exposing vulnerabilities?
Sure, you're showing your playbook.
And yet, maybe simultaneously, be the strongest strategic asset a leader possesses in that fight for domestic legitimacy and trust. Is that extreme transparency a weakness or the ultimate strength?
That is definitely something to chew on as you watch leaders navigate the global stage. Food for thought.